Hello and welcome to this Ruby Tuesday Books video. I'm Victoria and I'm very excited today to be talking to Dr Alex Standish, Senior Lecturer of Geography Education at University College London and author of our new book, Making Sense of Climate Change. Hello Alex.
Hello Victoria.
We are here today to talk to you about your new book. I want to firstly congratulate you on this really informative and accessible book, which really helps explain weather, climate change and global warming, as well as what steps people are taking and planning to take to adapt and make a difference to our changing climate. I used to be a primary school teacher and know that my old pupils would have been fighting over this book, and I would have found it really helpful to have that expert knowledge, up-to-date case studies to refer to, and also some optimistic language in the conversation. So Alex, you teach people how to teach geography at university. Why do you think that we should study geography and more specifically climate change?
Well, geography is just a fantastic subject. I mean, we get to study the whole world, so what could be more exciting than that? In geography, we can learn about landscapes, cultures, people, challenges people face where they live, the beautiful, exciting things around the world, bizarre things, but also the ugly and dangerous as well. So yeah, geography is a fantastic subject. It's so exciting. It's full of awe and wonder, and well, you know, what a great subject to to get children excited about the world. But also we do teach about issues people face. Geography is about the interaction between the human world and the physical world. So an issue like climate change covers both of those things, and is something that is very important for geographers to know.
Thank you. So why did you think that it was important to make this book for young children to read, and what do you hope that children will be taking away from it?
That's a very good question. I think the idea for the book came in 2019 when there were these student protests started on streets, or student strikes as they're sometimes called, and we saw lots of young people very concerned and very maybe even angry or interested in climate change, and not they weren't before, but they were being very vocal about it. But also we could see that children and teenagers were scared, and that was a little concerning. So we felt that perhaps we need to look a bit deeper in terms of what was going on in the way that climate change was being communicated to children. And I don't mean just in terms of school and the curriculum, but I also mean in terms of society and how the media and news is reporting this issue. And I think one significant report, because there have been a number of UN reports which have come out, which have been quite kind of scary about the future. But there's one at the end of 2018, an IPCC report said, or a headline from it came out saying we have 12 years to limit climate change catastrophe. And that's quite a scary message to hear if you're a child. Maybe those of us who are a bit older, have kind of heard it before, because actually the United Nations has been predicting environmental catastrophe for some time. Even in the 1980s, they were predicting that the environment would collapse by the end of the century. But for children, yeah, that's kind of a scary message to hear. But it does go back before that. You can go back to 2006. The Labour government at the time sent a copy of Al Gore's propaganda film, An Inconvenient Truth, to all schools. So climate change has been presented to children in maybe a fearful way, or was being presented in a fearful way. And I think some of these messages from from environmental groups, which have a tendency to play on the fearful and the concern about the future, I think that was becoming more mainstream coming into schools. And yeah, so it was clear that I think there was a need for something different. And at the same time as there were protests, people were talking about eco-anxiety as a new thing, which I don't know whether it is, but yeah, there was clearly a need for a more progressive and reassuring narrative that engages children to think of humans as part of the solution to this serious problem, not something that necessarily needs to be managed by it and told what to do, because you know, this scary problem is going to you know, be something that we all have to change our lifestyle about and be fearful of. So I think yeah, we were looking for something different.
Yeah, I think you are right, that kind of information that kind of just goes out there, and we see everything now in the news. And yeah, a child in primary school, in 12 years, so that's from when they're born to just after they finish, that's quite a short time, that there could be a disaster, and that kind of sensationalized language that's being used. I can see how it would create that kind of eco-anxiety, and the kind of, what can I do? I'm just an individual and I'm a child, but no one's going to listen. You know, you need to listen to us as children are going to solve the problem with the strikes and stuff. It's quite difficult, I think, for children to maybe gauge where they should stand. Where is the right way to act? What can I do? What should I do? Staying in school, dropping out of school on a Friday, all those kinds of things. It's a difficult world for them to navigate.
Absolutely, and you know, there were kids saying, you know, why should I finish school? Like, if you've only got 12 years, or it was 11 years by then, you know, why bother if, you know, if the climate's going to collapse? So you know, it's clearly a problematic narrative, and one that adults, teachers, parents need to you know, think about you know, readdressing that narrative and trying to make it more progressive, and something that children and society can you know, work towards overcoming. You know, not something that's going to yeah, something that's going to, that we can't do anything about.
Yeah, it's spiraling out of control, and how do we, you know, grapple and solve the problem? Yeah. You know, that kind of lead.
But at the same time, it's a global problem. You know, obviously there is you know, what we can do is very small in relation to something that's such a large scale. So obviously there's you know, it's challenging in that sense too.
That leads me on to my next question. Lots of us have watched programmes by or read articles about activists such as David Attenborough and Greta Thunberg. Many people predict what might happen to the climate in the next 100 years or so. But as you say in your book, no one is certain what the Earth's future looks like. So for children in primary schools now, reading your book, what do you think will look different in their future because of the way that we will adapt to change?
I'll ask you to have a crystal ball.
Yes. Do you have one?
No, is the answer. But I think, you know, what again, in teaching children about, in thinking about the future, I think, you know, the past is our guide. And so teaching about energy sources, for example, which obviously is a really important part of what we are going to need to do to slow global warming and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Yeah, teaching about how historically we've gone from wood to coal to oil to nuclear, geothermal, solar, and then, you know, you can talk about possibilities in the future, like, I mean, obviously there's a lot more battery powered cars, even aeroplanes now are being tested, running on.
No way, I didn't know that. Electric airplanes, yeah. That's exciting.
Absolutely. Exactly. So it should be exciting. Hydrogen is another possibility, but you know, that sort of engineering side of things isn't my forte. But the point is, you know, we exist in a relationship to our natural environment, and we use energy resources, but you know, human resources are a part of that. And so, you know, at the beginning of 100 years ago, obviously we were just getting into electricity. but who could have foreseen something like nuclear power? Okay, not really. So maybe science fiction is the best guide in terms of what might happen, because a lot of those things, do come. Some of those things, at least, do come to fruition. So I think giving children a sense of how things have changed over time, and then you can start to talk about possibilities in the future, which may or may not happen, but it gives them a positive sense of possibilities that that we can move forwards. We can make progress, we can move forwards, and part of that narrative then is about overcoming environmental problems like climate change. Teachers are the interface of the past and the future, working with the new generation, and that's what's great about the job. It's great about being a teacher, but you've got to be positive about the future. Okay, you can't go in there and be negative and say, oh, it's all going to be doom and gloom. Okay, otherwise, what are you doing in the classroom? You've got to offer children a sense of hope and a positive future. You've got to have a positive message for them so that they can see, optimism for their future. Okay, that's really important. I think that's what we perhaps haven't been getting right in some instances.
Absolutely, and I do really agree with you there, because it's difficult. It's difficult to sometimes see the wood for the trees kind of thing, and that's what I really, one of the sections in the book that I do really like is, well, towards the end, where there's examples of where people are, changing the way they are approaching building or flooding issues, or all the issues surrounding climate change, what they're doing now. And so it's not just looking into the future at a totally different world. It's what's happening now, and these are important things that are changing, and that's something to be excited about. And if that's what's happening now, what are those little next steps going to be? And
countries like Holland, which has built these fantastic sea defences, well, that technology is already there for countries like Bangladesh or the Maldives, but that doesn't mean there aren't challenges in it and adapting it. But it gives you hope that you can live with things like small increases in the sea level and so forth.
Thank you very much for answering those questions and helping us make a little bit more sense of climate change. For more information, please do visit our website, rubytuesdaybooks.com. Thank you.